Welcome to another edition of The Fan Perspective. I am your host, Nathan Lau. It is Sunday morning. It is 1 o'clock Sunday morning, and I just got home from work, about to go to bed. No idea when I'm going to wake up, so I'm just going to upload this video right now so that you have it to enjoy whenever you feel like looking at it. It is week 13 in the NFL, and for fantasy football players, playoffs are just around the horizon. So if you need a little boost to get you through to the end, or if you're just looking to save your pride and play spoiler to some other teams, here are a few things you might want to know about. First of all, Greg Jennings, Demarco Murray, Darren McFadden, and Troy Polamalu are all expected to return from injuries this week. I can't guarantee that they will actually play, and I have no idea how much time they will actually get if they are on the field. But their teams seem optimistic that they'll be able to go. The Bears were extremely banged up last week. Devin, Hester, and Ashlon will miss the game. However, Matt Forte, Lance Briggs, and Tillman should all be out there. For the Panthers, Jonathan Stewart is doubtful, so DeAngelo Williams should see an increase in carries. Mohamed Sanu had a huge game last week, but could now potentially miss the rest of the season after suffering an injury during practice this week. The Texans defense, which already lost Brian Cushing for this year, is now without Bradie James, Jonathan Joseph, and Brooks Reed for this week. I really can't recommend using the Texans defense right now. Not the way they've played the last 2 weeks. You know, these injuries might be taking a bit of a toll on them. I mean, don't get me wrong, they still got J.J. Watt, but you saw the numbers that they gave up, okay? And a couple of players who you should look at picking up if they're free agents. You have Beanie Wells and Pierre Garçon, who they've been injured for most of the season, so it wouldn't be too much of a shock to see them in the free agent pool. But last week they returned from injuries with a vengeance. They both had pretty decent games. Also, Bryce Brown, by this point in time, somebody in the league probably picked him up already. He had a huge game last week. It was the very first start of his career, and he had like 28-point performance. And we can ignore the 2 fumbles because he did so well. And this week he faces a Cowboys defense that its top 2 inside linebackers, Sean Lee and Bruce Carter, are on injured reserve. You know, DeMarcus Ware, he's a Hall of Famer, but he's a pass-rushing linebacker. You know, they spent all their offseason money on cornerbacks. I mean, this is a defense built for the pass. So I expect Bryce Brown to just tear him up for another huge yardage, possibly find the end zone. I expect at least 14 points out of him, if not more. And also for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I told you about Justin Blackmon, but while he has had 2 huge games in a row, Cecil Shorts has already established himself as the leading receiver in Jacksonville. He has had double-digit points in 5 of the last 6 games, including at least 14 points the last 3 weeks in a row. So, you know, no one's really talking about him that much, so if you don't have him already, go look for him. He might be a good pickup. And some sleepers for this week. The San Francisco 49ers are one of the better defenses in the league, but Steven Jackson is a perennial Hall of Famer, and the last time he played them, he managed to break the century mark. He could potentially have another big game this week. Potentially. Steven Johnson and Brandon LaFell, they've both had up and down seasons, but this week they've matched up against 2 very weak defenses against Jacksonville and Kansas City. So I feel comfortable rolling with them. And then you have the Cleveland Browns defense, which forced 8 fumbles last week, and now they go against Carson Palmer, who throws like at least 2 picks in every game. So you could see them taking advantage of a relatively weak matchup. And also a couple of people who are losing values, and by a couple I'm mostly just concentrating on one, which is Larry Fitzgerald. I love him, one of the best receivers in the league, future Hall of Famer, but the The Steelers and the Cardinals are the only two teams that have started 3 quarterbacks this year. Every other team has either started 1 or 2. They've started 3. And that has hurt Fitzgerald's numbers. He's one of the best players in the league, but he hasn't been putting up consistent numbers. He's had a hugely disappointing season, and honestly, I would have dropped him already, except that in my league, he's kind of undroppable. But I'm very wary of ever drafting this guy again. And there are a couple of others who I just felt like I should mention. I'm going to finish off by saying that A.J. Green, he had a streak of 9 consecutive games with at least 1 touchdown. That came to an end last week. He did not find the end zone, but he still had over 100 yards. He will continue to be a must-start because he is Andy Dalton's favorite target. He gets targeted more than twice as much as the second leading receiver on their team. And also, Aaron Rodgers had an incredibly disappointing day last week, but I think that's more matchup based than anything else. And I still consider a must-start, especially when you consider that Greg Jennings is expected to be back. Quarterbacks always perform better when they have their top playmakers on the field. That's it for this week. Tune in tomorrow on Monday for a new episode of NBA Weekly. Tune in Tuesday for reflections from Week 13. I am your host, Nathan Lyle. As always, I hope you have a happy Sunday. Good luck to you in the playoffs, and if you're not going to the playoffs, good luck in knocking somebody out of the playoffs and laughing at it.